Hello. It is 7:38, and I thought I was going to go right back to bed after getting a phone call, but then I checked my messages, and I've had such a day. I thought I'm just going to do a very quick little story time because I need to rest so that I can get through tomorrow. But I had someone send me some message today, someone that I have been having some conversations with, and it created a very interesting viewpoint. Hi, Gypsy girl. So I got messages from this person. I've been talking with this person ever since the beer flu happened and all these the changes in our society have occurred, and all of the RIOTSs we saw last year that were peaceful protests actually. And so this person actually said, this person who is completely different from me. I am Irish and Cherokee with a tiny bit of German in me that comes along with the Irish. Hello, Annette. And this person is someone who would be considered, I guess, biracial or at least a person of color. And we've been really good friends for a long time, and we talk about these things at, just at we chew the fat for long amounts of time when we're talking about these subjects because we both are trying to figure out what in the crap is going on. And so I sent her a message the other day that she made a joke and said I'm going to go downtown and get my free groceries and free name brand clothing items and shoes for me and the family because I am a victim and I get perks. And I messaged her and I said, "Really?" She's like, "Oh yeah, no." She's like, "Because of my status, I can go to certain agencies and I can get loads and loads and loads of name brand stuff, and they say it's because they want to treat us well now because we've been treated poorly. And so these agencies, these organizations have come in and they promise to provide us with these nice clothes, these nice shoes, and help with groceries. And all we have to do is register our families with them, and they help keep us provided." I said, "It sounds like an old school Appalachian commodity run." And she goes, "Oh, no. She's like, "There are no generic items here. It's it's really good stuff." And I was like, "Is that why you made the word victim sound so good?" And she's like, yeah, if that's gonna get me this stuff, then I don't mind being a victim." I said, "Really?" I said, "To be continued," because we both had things to do. And so we finally got to finish our conversation. And I love this woman with all my heart. She's opened my eyes up to a whole lot, and I've opened her eyes up to a whole lot. But this was a conversation that neither of us were aware of where it was going to end, and it ended just a couple minutes ago. I have had two phone calls this evening, and the last one was ground shattering. So I wanted to get on here and let you all know what happened. So I said, "So you're happy?" We picked it back up. I said, "So you're happy being a victim?" She goes, "I'll be a victim any day for anything that I can get like this." She's like, "It's hard to pay my rent. It's hard to pay these bills. And if I can get some help, I don't care where it comes from. If I have to wear a tag that says victim, I'm cool with that because right now, victim status seems kind of like celebrity status with my new Nikes and my new Nike swoosh hoodies and my kids going to school rocking name brand clothes." And I said, "So when did the word victim become synonymous with celebrity?" She goes, "I don't know, but I'll take it." I said, "Do you think that's one of those words that they're rebranding and that you're part of the rebranding?" She goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, back in old times," I said, when when great cities and governments fell, it's because they tried to exercise power over the people. Or if there was a big change in the government and the status, it was because they were trying to exercise power over the people. And so, like, let's say, like this one, just a fictitious city had three groups of people that were very much separated by physical characteristics. One group was louder and wanted to control the other groups. One group just wanted to be left alone, to be fed well, to live a decent life. And one group wanted everything the other two groups had but didn't know how to go about getting it. So the loud group knew that they could not get the group that wanted to be just left alone and live a good life. They couldn't play on them because that group just wanted to be left alone and live a good life. There's no wanting there. There's no desire to change status, to raise yourself up. So they said, well, we can't use those people. We're just going to set them aside. They're not useful to us. But these people that want everything everybody else have but don't know how to go about getting it, we can work with that. Now, these people were in this position through no fault of their own. It's just how human societies kind of often segregate and fall into different ideologies and groups. But this group had struggled to find their place. And so this very loud, powerful group came over and said, hey, we can help you. We can help you be powerful like us. And they're like, really? You can help us? Yeah, we're going to help you attain our level of life. But we want you to know this is not your fault. You've been a victim. And they're like, what? We've been a victim? You've been a victim. You've been a victim of this, that, the other. And what we're going to do is we're going to, we want you to dress better, to look better. We want to offer like so many positions at so many councils so that you feel well respected. But just a few, not too many, but just a few. So you feel well respected. We're going to give you extra food. We're going to stop you from having to work so hard. We're going to cut back on your hours of work, and you're going to get more time to rest, and you're going to get better food, and we're going to compensate your lifestyle because you've been a victim. Yeah, I have been a victim. Now, they can't tell you how they've been a victim themselves, but they start to like this idea of being a victim, because being a victim now means these people look favorably upon me. They want to give me things. They want to elevate how I feel my life is being lived. I now feel better about myself because I have better shoes. I have better clothes. I have better food. I have more time to myself. And I have a little bit of what I think is respect coming my way. Yes, I was a victim. I am a victim. You need to take care of the victims in your society because they have stories to tell. And the powerful people are like, absolutely, tell your story. We're going to support you. We don't want you to be a victim anymore. That's right. We don't want to be victims anymore. We don't want what? We don't want to be victims anymore. Victims, it's working out really good for us. Where do we go next? Well, you'll become a person of power. Oh, well, that sounds even better than being a victim. That comes with power. So, yeah, I don't want to be a victim. I want to be a person of power. Yes, and we're going to help you become a person of power. Yeah, you're going to help me not be a victim anymore, and I'm going to become a person of power. But do I still get the shoes and the clothes and the food and all the extra help? Yeah, right, yeah, because we want to help elevate your status, so we're helping you. Man, y'all are so good to us. You're so good to us victims. Thank you for helping us turn ourselves into people of power. So you fast forward, and then one day the victims show up, and there's no food, there's no clothes, there's no aid. And they're like, well, where's everything that you've been helping us with for all these years? Well, now you're people of power. Oh, we made it to the people of power level. Well, what does this level come with? It comes with respect. We now respect you as an equal and an enemy. So now you're an enemy. I don't want to be your enemy. Well, you are my enemy because now you have power and you're an equal, so you're my enemy. Well, how did I get here? Well, you got here because you wanted to be a victim. and we said, yeah, you're a victim. And he said, well, how do I not be this victim? Well, you wear better clothes, you feed yourself better, you take more time, and you get involved in what's going on in your community, and you become a person of power. But the person of power doesn't come with any of the perks. No, a person of power, you have to become, you're an equal, you have to fight for everything that you get. Well, man, we're not ready to fight. You've been feeding us and clothing us and maintaining us for years, telling us we're victims, and now we're just supposed to be equals and we're supposed to fight? Why would you do this to us? And there lies the point. Society often chooses parts of the population to put into victim status, to start fueling these people with this idea that they're victims. And then they start fueling in the help. And they start building up this idea that victim mentality is celebrity mentality. You're getting these free things, these great things, and rock that victim status. By golly, yeah, get all that you can. Yes, you're a victim. Victims are awesome. Victims get free crap. Victims get to sit out there and hold their hand up and say, give me something. I'm a victim. You've made me a victim. But after you receive all this aid and you climb that ladder and now you're living better than most people, you're no longer a victim. And your victimhood gets yanked away by the same people that gave it to you. Meanwhile, that quiet people that just wanted to live their life, they're over there going, see, that's why we don't mess with those people. That's why we don't mess with those people. They're tricky little some bitches. We don't mess with them people. But now, these people that embraced the victimhood because they were tricked by these loud people that wanted to control everything, they don't know what to do because now the loud people see them as equals, people in position of power, but not too much power. Remember, they only give them so many seats on councils and they only educated so many of their children. But they're equal, people of power. So they have a war. Guess who wins? The loud people. The loud people that connived and shaped the others to be victims, to accept all this help, to never learn how to live their own life, to never learn how to provide for themselves, to never learn how to stand alone. And then they put them into a perceived seat of power so that they could conquer them. And they were not conquered because they fought and battled and had strategies. They were conquered because they accepted the easy road. They accepted all the help without learning to help themselves. And they were fluffed up to a seat of power that was fictitious, just so they could then be conquered. And they had no idea it was happening. And she said, oh my God. She said, this happens all the time in history, doesn't it? I said, all the time in history. I said, the only thing that changes are the groups of people. They shuffle. They're never the same group of people. And she goes, oh my goodness. She said, right now, my people of color are the people that have been in the victimhood mentality, crave the victimhood status, craved everything that comes with it. And now we're becoming people in a powerful status. And she said, we're soon to be equals. And she said, then I said, the loud liberals are going to come and demolish you. Or they'll push you back into victimhood mentality. Because the only way the wheels on the bus continue to go around is if that loud group stays in power and they have someone to victimize and play this game with, because it's just pure entertainment for them. And they have to have that. They have to have that or they would tear themselves apart. So they have to have a group they can purely entertain themselves with this victim power cycle and demolishment. Meanwhile, the people that are standing over there and huddled in the right corner just wanting to live a quiet life by themselves, be left alone, those are the people that are being said to be horrible, vicious, can't tolerate anybody, and has to isolate themselves amongst their own. And they're horrible, horrible people. They can't tolerate anyone, but they're not isolating because they can't tolerate. They're isolating out of fear and safety because they know the games that are being played by the other two groups. And they want no part of it. They don't want to be put in the emotional upheaval. They don't want to be put into a victim status. They just want to live their life and be who they are and have a quiet existence. And these are the three groups that the U.S. is using. Much like you can go back into the Ukraine and Russia, and even back to the Roman Empire. There are always either a dichotomy or three groups that tear these societies apart by playing this game. And I can go back and read all these historical documents and see it point blank. But if I try to explain it to someone, they get mad. Thank God I have a good friend, someone who does not see skin color before she sees a heart. And we could talk about this. And she verified within her community, which is I guess you would say the community that is screaming the victimhood status and trying to take control and and take back their power, that it is popular to be a victim. It is popular to get all that you can get out of that word and to milk that word. And it comes with no stigma to be a victim anymore. And I said, that scares me, because when the word victim no longer implies that you need to watch your back, it means you need to watch your back even more. I said, because big things are fixing to change according to all the historical references that I can read. She goes, oh my God. She said, why can't people see this? And I said, well, they can see this, but the people that tell them about it are often the people that are huddled over there on the right. They just want to be left alone and have a quiet life and don't want to cause any drama. And when they try to help, they say it's drama and that they're trying to be these supreme beings, and it never turns out well. So they just huddle even tighter into the corner and just want to be left alone. I said, we would love to stop this merry-go-round, but it's been going since the dawn of man. But I think this is the longest and most dangerous merry-go-round ride that society has seen in a long time. So who's going to be king of the hill? Because it's not the people huddled over on the right that are trying to whip people into a frenzy and create different word meanings and shape groups of people. It's these loud people that are over here on the left that want to give everyone a box to firmly fit in and then be in control of all the boxes. So what happens when the victims that those loud people on the left have been training to be equals? What happens when they get to that equal place? They're going to see each other as equal threats. And then what do you think is going to happen? History's probably going to repeat itself, right? And no matter how many times I try to say this to somebody, I can't get very far in this story, and I can't show that there is this circular nature in humanity and in society. It doesn't matter what color, creed, race is in those three positions, as long as they have those three seats of power, those three roles to play, then the merry-go-round, the show goes on. And it's almost by dumb luck where you fall into which three categories, which group of people falls into which category. It's just kind of dumb luck. And right now, I think we've got one of the most violent battles going on, because the last few hundred years have really shaped a lot of mentalities. And they've shaped them to be much more aggressive, much more violent. There's a lot of hidden animosity that is not spoken about. And I understand that. I'm from Irish descent. I basically lived the same ancestral heritage, but I don't get to talk about mine, and that's okay. I know who I am and where I come from, and I've studied history enough, and I've studied societies enough. But my real concern is, how do we stop this? How do we flip the game and we get the people that have been lied to and told they were victims for so long to keep them in a weak spot so they'll be easily conquered? How we get them to wake up to it and stop being fed the lines of crap by people who want to shape them to keep them controlled. How do we wake these people up? Because the word victim sounds really nasty. It sounds like something you don't want to be, right? Until the word victim gets you free clothes and shoes and gets you fed, gets you free housing, it gets you a get out jail free card in many cases. And you get all this special treatment, this privileged treatment, and you get get a lot of oversight given to you for behavior. But guaranteed, the people that are giving you all of those special allowances are going to call in a favor one day. And what happens then? Because I'm huddled with the people over there in the right corner going, this is going to be bad. And I've tried to tell them it's going to be bad, and to not get used to getting your food and everything you need from those people, because they will put a kink in the hose one day and the flow will stop. And then you're going to be in a worse position than if you were, having to learn from the get-go. Now you're going to be in a worse position because you've been trained that you can only survive with the help of this other group. When actually, if you had just gone through the hardship alone and learned to do it yourself, you would be in a much better position. When people want to give you help, when people want to help you embrace a victim mentality, you need to be aware that they're training you, they're grooming you, almost as if they were a predator. They're grooming you. Nobody will ever give you a label to wear unless it is a label one level lower than the sticker they have on their chest. Think about that for a minute. So if you're willing to accept a label from someone, always expect to be at least number 2 or lower, because they're never going to give you the number 1 position. That's a position you have to fight for. So be very careful when you start to allow people to label you and to call you a victim and to help you and to elevate your status, because I guarantee they will never allow you to get above their status. And when you get equal, they are going to call in the markers, and you will either be conquered or you will have everything taken away and you will start over at that lowest victim status again. And there we go. The cycle starts all over again. Hey, Justin. Kind of a heavy chat. It's not going to be a long chat. I just wanted to leave this here. But I had this great conversation with my friend, and she was like, oh my God, you're right. And she was like, holy crap. And she was like, you're the first person that is more of a conservative friend. You're the first more conservative friend that I've ever had. And she's like, you are absolutely the most sweet person, honest person. She's like, we've never hidden anything from each other. And she's like, I think that you're one of the most honest people I've ever met. And she's like, thank you for talking to me about this. She's like, most people are too scared to have these conversations with me. And I said, I'm in the same predicament. I said, because if you don't play that victim role, I'm in the next group huddled in the corner that's being eyeballed right now. I said, y'all, we're fighting the same battle. I'm just the backup victim. And she goes, holy crap. I said, yeah, holy crap. I said, but why are our groups supposed to hate each other? She's like, I don't understand. She's like, I don't get it either. You're exactly right. You're the backup victim. You're the secondary group that they get to pick on if something happens and we disappear. And I'm like, yep. And I said, they hold us in the wings and they keep us pegged by these words that they've changed the meaning to, these supreme being words and stuff that are not true, but it's enough to get people to throw stones at us and keep us sequestered over here. And we just want to leave us alone, let us live our life, stop throwing stones at us, leave us alone. I said, but we're over there and we're kept in that position. I said, no, we're the next up. We're on deck. Should what's going on with you all not work out. And she was like, oh my God. She's like, I've never had such a conversation. And she said, you're right. And we started talking about history and the different civilizations that have fallen. And that they had all fallen after they had created a victim or declared a victimhood amongst their societies and tried to oversee some kind of power shift or status raise that ended up being a power shift that ended up in a war. It just is constantly repeating itself. Just constantly repeating itself. Annette, you're absolutely right. A half-truth is worse than a lie. I'd rather somebody point blank lie to me 100% of the time than me have to sit there and try to figure out what they're telling me, is it true or not. So we sat there and we talked about this, for about 30 minutes in the societies and stuff. And she goes, oh my God. She's like, now I feel so stupid. She's like, for people like in my family, they come home bragging that they went to some kind of leadership campaign and they came back with Nike gear. She's like, if you're going to a leadership campaign, why would you come back with a leadership polo or a cufflinks? Or she's like, why would you come back with Nike gear? And I said, well, what would the leadership badge or the cufflinks mean to them? She goes, well, you're right, nothing, because they've been trained that it's those name brand things that mean status, that mean power, that mean I'm making it in this world. And I said, yeah. I said, but wouldn't it have been so much better if they had learned to value the education and the badge? And she goes, oh my God, yes. She's like, I feel like half my family has been cultivated to be idiots, to go after these empty things. And she said, then when somebody steps up and goes, hey, how about you come to this program and you learn about this skill set and you get this job, and she's like, half the people in my family will look at you and be like, you fool, if we do that, we can't get this, that, and the other. And she's like, but you're right. And she's like, stifling themselves and keeping themselves stupid for sweatshirts, hoodies, and shoes, she said, is not helping anyone. And she's like, and then they get mad because they say it's all of this other group that's getting all this education and all this opportunity. She said, but it's been offered. She's like, I've witnessed my family be given scholarship opportunities. And she's like, I've witnessed my family turn them down because they don't know how to live above a welfare state. Because we have been trained. I said, absolutely, you've been trained. You've been trained by society and by the government and by the people in positions of power. And she said, oh my God. And she said, you're stuck in the same limbo. I said, I am stuck right there with you. I said, I don't get a lot of the aid. I said, I get some. I said, I was lucky when my kids were little. I said, my kids got some health insurance. But then when I went to college, all that stopped, and I became in that class to where you pay your nickel and dime for everything and nothing comes free. And I said, middle class is the hardest class to be because you get no freebies, but you don't belong to the top level, so you're still struggling. And everything costs you money because you're not in anyone's good enough graces to be weak enough to ask for power, to be strong enough to expect it. So you get nothing for free. And I said, it's a struggle. I said, it's horrible. And I said, so the only thing that we can get is education and training and skill sets. And so we try to gobble them up. And then people look at us like we're horrible people, like, well, you just have to educate yourself to death. Well, yeah, that's all we have. That's all we're given. That's all the opportunity we're given. And she goes, oh my gosh. And she said, they do that to us on purpose. And I said, yes, they do it to us on purpose. And I said, I'm stuck in the nickel and dime place. I said, where I live, probably much worse than most people that are at poverty level. Because the people at poverty level at least get grocery help and stuff, like that. And I said, I live pretty bad, but I said, I'm still happy that at least I have a little bit more control over who I say I am and what I say I do, because I at least do have some skill sets and some training and some education. And she said, but my family has almost no control over anything because she's like, Elizabeth, literally, we're led by the nose and we're told what we can and can't do because it may affect what we're given that month for benefits. And I said, wow. And she said, yeah, wow. She said, we're both screwed. I said, yeah, we're both officially royally screwed. And I said, but that's that group that's got us both screwed. I said, they tell you you're a victim, and they tell me I'm this supreme being that just doesn't understand how audacious I am. That we should hate each other because we're never going to be good friends. Although when we talk to each other, hey, guess what? Guess what? We're kicking the same lifestyle. It's just got different parameters. And what we should be doing is looking and going, why is that group telling each of us who we're supposed to be? Giving us both labels and roles to play. But then as soon as we start to have a comeuppance where we start to elevate our own status, they squash us back down. And then they didn't do it though, they blame it on someone else. And I said, so our groups stay mad at each other, even though we're both getting beat down by the same people. And these people get to have all this fun creating victims and creating these supreme beings that everybody gets to hate and manifest as their own personal monster. And they have no ramifications whatsoever. And we're too stupid to turn to each other and go, hey, let's help each other. And she said, I think it's happening more and more every day. And I said, I think it is too, because people are starting to have dialogues. And we're starting to say, you have controlled our language for so long, it means nothing. So I'm going to go out and use any words I need to say to have conversations with these people. I'm going to have conversations with the people that you say are my enemy. I'm going to have conversations with the people that you say hate me. And guess what I'm going to learn? I'm going to learn that they're not my enemy and that we don't hate each other and that we live a very similar lifestyle and that we're both confused as heck at what's going on and the manipulation games that are being played. And I guarantee you that if we all start to communicate more, a lot of other people would see this cycle that society has gone through since the dawn of man, where you've got 2 to 3 groups, one that is the puppeteer that controls everybody, one that is the victim that will play the victim and gladly play it to because the victim is equated to celebrity, basically, because being a victim is no longer a bad thing. It's a good thing because you can get things. But you only get those things until you only stay a victim until you become an equal, and then boom, smackdown occurs. So that's a hefty role. That's a big role for somebody's entire culture to have to cycle through, to go from being a victim to someone climbing the status, to living a better life, to then being an equal. And as soon as you become an equal, boom, you are smacked down and you go back all the way to victim status again. Can you imagine being trapped in that cycle? Holy crap. I'm trapped in a similar cycle. And maybe it's just because I'm used to it. Maybe I think it's more livable, but I think it's just because it's what I'm used to. I'm trapped in the cycle where I'm born dirt poor. I'm told that I can elevate my status by education, then I'm billed out the wazoo for my education. And about the time I think my education is going to pay out and trip me into the next tier of society, I am thrown so many bills that I am eternally trapped, being nickeled and dimed, and I'm trapped in a financial level to where I can't get any aid because I make too much money, but I can't go to the next level because I can't pay these bills off and accrue more wealth. And I'm dirt poor. I'm living just as poor as the people that are getting poverty aid. And so when I meet people that I know are on that second team, that's just as much being manipulated as my little group of people over here. They don't want us to get along because they don't want us to talk. They don't want us to figure out the game. That's the game, people. We have roles to play so that they can be eternally entertained. And how can we prove this? Because they change our language. Victim is a bad thing until it means a good thing. Then it's a really good thing until it means you're an equal. And then it's a really bad thing to be an equal, which you would think would be a good thing. But since you're an equal, now you're a threat, and boom, smackdown occurs, and now you're at the bottom of the pile and you're a victim again, which is a bad thing. Think about it. How many times have you seen that cycle played? In how many nations and how many countries and how many continents across the world? And there can be more groups of people. It's normally just carved up so that there can never be any supreme power that takes over that one group's numbers. So if that one group gets close to being taken over, if the puppeteers figure out that, oh my gosh, there's people banding together and they can overcome us, then they create a wedge issue to throw out there to bust up those people that had shook hands and said, let's get in this together. Then they throw out an issue and they start a little fight, and all before you know it, they've busted that back up. Because the one thing I will say about us people that are in these little groups that are being manipulated, we're too stupid to figure out that when we hate each other, it only hurts us. It only hurts us. It only takes our chances away of improving our lives. But a lot of people would rather hang on to anger because of their life situations. They would rather hang on to that anger and take it out on somebody immediately. They have to live through it, swallow it daily so that they can get to a better place in life. And people just aren't made to swallow those emotions. And the people in control know it, and that's why they play our emotions daily. That's why fear, victimhood, and culture and race wars. That's why those are the top trifecta, because those are where our emotions lie. That's the easiest way for them to bust us up. And so, as me, a translucent, red-headed, potato farming, ancestral girl here, spoke to my friend from the Caribbean, we had an epiphany that we were both equally being screwed. And she said, I'm going to go home and tell my family about this. She said, oh my God, thank you. She's like, I finally understand. She said, the history and all these truths that they've woven and changed and manipulated. She said, to constantly bring me back to a service, to feel like I have to be thankful for this group of people. She said, I'm not thankful for them at all. She's like, they've been leading me by the nose my entire life. I said, for generations, your family. And I said, mine's been there right beside them. And she said, I'm going to go home and tell my family. She's like, I'm going to explain it now that it's been explained to me and I can explain it. And I have historical references. And I can say, let's look at the kulaks who went to the gulags in the Ukraine and Soviet Union. Let's look at Rome that broke away when people were starting to climb to positions of power. Why did it fall when it was at its highest position of power? Because power was sought by everybody. And Rome figured it out. Only so many people can be in a seat of power. And to balance power, you have to have people that are not in power. You have to have needy people. You have to have victims. But you can't always get willing victims, so there comes the split. You have victims that are willing victims that will milk that victimhood status, and you have victims that are like, I'm not playing this game. And they're not willing participants, and they throw a wrench in things. And that's how you get your three base groups. But it can split even more. It can split even to smaller micro issues, to where you'll have cultures blend and create another group with all cultures represented based on something else that means more to them than. And people don't see that they're being split and manipulated. And people don't understand when they're happy to wear that victim tag what it means. It means, hello, I'm here and I will wear this happily and be easily controlled, and I will play your game. And then when I become your equal, I will be confused, hurt, and then banished back down the ladder to start it all over again. And I will play that role however long you need me to, because I won't fight to get out of that role. I want people to fight to get out of that role. When the word victim starts to become a celebrity term and people throw it around and they're so happy they're a victim. And I'm a victim in so many ways. Let me tell you about how I am such an intersectional victim. People start to worry when we gravitate toward being victims, when we gravitate toward thinking we should be given a life, not have to work, rewarded for nothing, because that is when you're starting to see society go kaput. When you're happy to be a victim and you turn the word victim into a great thing, and your language starts to mean nothing because it takes on the hip new, that word that's been a word for thousands of years all of a sudden is changed to mean something else. Why? What's fixing to happen? Jenny, that's great. Yeah, familial narcissism, manipulation. Yeah, manipulation in any form is horrible. And that I try to never abide by any of society's rules. So if they say, oh, normally you're not welcome into that part of town, my butt's going to march down to that part of town, and I'm going to make me a friend. That's how you break those boundaries. You say, I'm not going to live in this little world you've created, and I'm going to create my own. And you start building friendships and you start building understanding amongst people. And when you learn that bonding is a deep emotional thing that happens because of things that you've been through, trauma that you've had to go through, fears, emotions that people have forced upon you, you can find that you can bond with people over a lot more things than you think possible. And you find out that the limits to bonding, they blur really quickly when you really, really, really are ready to bond with other human beings. And that's very important, especially when you have a narcissist in the family, because then you have to grow up. You grow up stronger because you grow up constantly. If you're aware enough to notice that something's wrong, you grow up stronger. But you almost do have that trifecta in those families, because you will have the narcissist, which is the loud person that's pulling all the power, and then you will have the person that doesn't see the narcissist, doesn't understand the game they're playing, just is constantly in that victim mentality because they don't know what's going on and they're just trying to please the narcissist. And then you've normally got the sibling that figures out that something's wrong here, something's up, and I ain't playing that game. And so you almost get that same little game set up in that little microcosm of a family unit. And it's rough. I grew up in a home very similar to that, and it's rough. And that's, if you all want to know, that's why I question everybody and everything, because I have seen motive and intent and power corrupt. As a young child, I saw that. Hi, Denise. And so I question everybody's intent. I question everybody's motivation behind what they're doing. And I try to do it in a reserved, like, I'm kind to you, I'm nice to you. I really hope that when I meet somebody new, I'm meeting a friend. But I will sit down and withhold judgment until I know you're somebody that I can really divulge myself to. And I really love when I find those people that are my people, that I can just open my mouth and throw anything out, and they will sit there and go, well, it's okay, we're going to go through this, it's okay, we'll get through it. And they go through it with me, and they harbor no ill will. They just go, no, we'll get through it, we'll figure out what you were trying to say, we'll get through it. And so that is why when I find those people that are like that to me, then to other people that do, I'm like, it's okay, we're going to get through it, we're going to figure out what you were trying to say, and we're going to figure this out. So if I find good people, I will go through absolute hell with you all. I'm just so surprised in society that we've limited ourselves from finding good people based on other people's ideas that it might not be a good reason. Like, oh well, like someone on the conservative right goes, I want to go downtown and roll up at a barbecue where 80% of the participants are people of color, and see if I can be accepted. Well, number one, 9 times out of 10, you probably will be. They'll even make you a plate and they'll welcome you to the table because I have put that into practice. But the only person that's going to tell you it's not a good idea, don't do it, is the person that doesn't want to see friendships and society evolve and change and reshape and reform and become something that can't be controlled. Gypsy, sweetie, I'm so sorry to hear that. You have a lot you have a lot of intelligence because you dealt with probably emotional things that were far beyond your years. And that is why you come across as somebody who is very poised and you stand very strong in your beliefs because you've had to sit there and challenge your own thoughts and question yourself and shape your own world because it looks like you're the only one who could shape it. Bless your heart. And from what I've seen from your behavior and the way you handle yourself, you did a very good job. You're very well rounded, easy to get along with, easy to talk to. You articulate yourself very well, and you come in to join a group. You don't come in to rattle a group. Boy, that's a strong statement. You come in to join the group. You don't come in to rattle the group. Have you noticed in society that the only people who've been getting any news media coverage, attention in society, the people that come in to rattle society? I mean, legit people. You only watch the bad things. When you watch the news, you're basically seeing the highlight reel of the stupid people. That's basically what you're seeing. And they only show the people that come in to rattle society. We've got so many more stories of people that come in to join society, to join groups, to join humanity and do positive things. But they can't show us those stories because then we might breathe a very small sigh of relief and forget to be afraid of everybody around us. And if there's one thing I wish I could take away from everybody for 5 minutes, it was it would be on the top of the list would be fears that are not your own. Fears that you have picked up off the side of the road, put in your pocket, that you have no basis for, that you have no foundation for, that has not shaped your life in any other way other than you stumbled across it and picked it up. It's not your fear, but you pack it because you found it and society told you, hey, hang on to that. If I could take anything away from everyone on this planet, it would be fears that are not your own because they're useless. It's like taking a lie detector test when you've done no crime. It serves no purpose. Why do you have that fear? It's like when I see people pushing their wheelbarrow through life, and you can see the rocks in the wheelbarrow, and it's like bad childhood, bad first marriage, and then all of a sudden there'll be this big stone that says, "My mother's trauma and trauma relationships with men." Why do you have that rock in your wheelbarrow? That's your mother's trauma and her trauma relationships with men. Well, we talk about it. I try to help her with it, and you pack 40 pounds a day to help her with nothing because you're your child. You can't help your mother with her trauma relationships with men. Are you crazy? Inappropriate. Calling foul on the field. Put a flag down, somebody. Picks that rock out of your wheelbarrow. Well, if I don't pack it, who will? Your mama, who created her trauma relationships with the men. And it's okay. You pack what you create. Stop packing other people's rocks in your wheelbarrow. The people go, but I have to be a good person. I have to help. You're not helping. You're enabling them. You're enabling them to say, you can have all these bad behaviors, and I'm going to stand here and I'm going to steep in the crap with you. That's not a friendship. That's not a respected partnership. That's no. That's enabling. And that's somebody needing a human person to be a pacifier while they screw up their life so they can turn around and feel better about screwing up their life because they've got somebody stupid enough to go with them through all the screw ups. Get away from them people. You are not a human pacifier. You are not created to make anyone else feel better about their stupidity. That is a bridge everyone needs to cross alone, because it takes a deep thought. And you need to cross that bridge alone and be in deep thought about yourself and your own stupidity. And we all need to cross that bridge. Some of us have stood at it for years and years and years, looking at it terrified, because we really know we don't want to find out what we're going to find out when we cross it. But you got to cross it. Well, let me tell you, life is a lot better when you cross that bridge and you start holding yourself accountable, and you realize, hey, it's me, it's my life, I'm in control, and I also have to accept the crap. But if I learn to accept the crap, I will train myself to create less crap, and therefore I will have a better life. And I don't need 5 people to go to the emotional bathroom with me. Women. I don't need, I don't need a herd to go through life with me to feel better about who I am, because once I come to peace with who I am and I own all of myself, even the stupidity, I'm okay with me. I'm okay being alone. I realize that I'm all I ever needed. I can look at, even at the darkest corners of myself, I can look and I can handle, because I have met myself and I've talked to myself and I have communed with myself, and I don't need to distract myself from myself with 5 other people that are my human pacifiers. Who is your human pacifier? They're probably really sweet, great people, but it's a toxic relationship. Reevaluate. Because all you keep them there for is to feel better about your own stupidity. You keep them there because they're too kind to say, that was stupid. Why did you do that? They're the friend that will constantly go, I'm here for you. It's okay. I love you anyway. It's great when people say that, but guess what are the worst words to hear when you're trying to become a better person? I love you anyway. Because something, there are times when you have to look and go, if you're capable of that, we've got to rethink this. You should be in accountable relationships that make you better people, that make you question yourself, that make you think about your own integrity. Because if you constantly surround yourself with people that will just accept you, you will learn to accept anything within yourself as well. And boy, we turn into really ugly people when we do that. Accountability is a big part of becoming a better person. Standing alone and owning who you are, and not saying, oh, but I have these 5 friends that have helped shape me and they've trained. No. You collected those friends. You were responsible for that. That is still you. Set your friends free. You don't need human pacifiers. Deal with yourself. Question yourself. Talk to yourself. See if you really like yourself. Then make yourself somebody that you really do like. And then when you collect friends that are extensions of the positive things you want to create in the world. And boy, you're going to have some power in your friendships then. And you're not going to have pacifiers. You're not going to have people that just calm you down and help you blur through days without realizing that you're a better human being with better potential. No, you're going to be out there being that better human being with better potential and better friends. Wayne, I see that you said myself and my life partner. That's one of those whole separate relationships to where there is some human pacifier stuff going on that needs to go on in that relationship, because it's a different dynamic of a relationship. But when we talk about our social relationships with friends that we have out in public, not people that cohabitate with us, then when you start to have those pacifier friends that just make you glaze over life, that everything's okay, that's toxic. That can get really bad, because it will distract you from actually handling your life. Because now you've not only got yourself giving, you can throw out a reason for not getting something done, a justification, but you've got 5 other people that do it for you. Whew, that's bad. It's a bad place to be in. But a domestic cohabitation marriage, that's a whole separate dynamic. So if you say, but my wife is my human pacifier, in some regard, in a domestic partnership, that should happen, but that's a whole separate dynamic. That's a whole separate relationship dynamic. What we're talking about right now is like out in public, or herd that we find out in public that we gravitate toward, while we gravitate toward them, and while we collect certain people when we walk out of our door every day and put on our little outfit to attack the world. Why do we also go and grab these other people to attack the world? Why do we need them? Think really hard about why you pick the people that you surround yourself with. And see, you can tell from the chat, we've all been through stuff. There is no one on the planet that has had a perfect life. There is no one on a planet that has lived a life without some kind of trauma, some kind of issue, some kind of emotional upheaval. To be human is to have human conditions, and to have human conditions is to basically have met dysfunction from the day one that you popped out of your mama's vajayjay. Something happened dysfunctional that day, and that is to be a human and to be trapped in the human condition. Once we get about past age 4 or 5, we start to become aware of ourselves and how we fit into the world, and that's when we have to start learning to balance. And things that we can't control at those younger ages do greatly affect who we grow up to be. But guess what? You're constantly changing. You're constantly growing, changing, learning. So that if you turn around and you realize something bad happened that has affected you, because you had that realization, it can be changed. So you're not trapped. People often think they're trapped in anxiety, or they're trapped in depression, or they're trapped in bad relationships. Just the knowledge that you think you're trapped tells me that you can identify that something's wrong. And if you can identify that something's wrong, you can identify a route to change and escape. Gypsy, that is, I'm still me. Whatever God wants. That's, for me, at the end of the day, whether I have 100,000 friends or none, for me, at the end of the day, if I have done what has been put on my heart to have been done that day, then that's the only reason I'm here. That's what I'm supposed to do. But if you start looking at life as giving your best self to others, putting your best foot forward, making sure that you're creating your best personality, your best being, and making sure that you're handling negative things before they become life altering things, you're going to feel better about what you're doing just because you're handling things. And lots of times, even in like the darkest of days, because I've had that accountability to something higher than myself, I have gotten out of bed and I have done something that day because I have that calling to do something that's accountable above me. And that's where people that's why people sometimes feel trapped. They don't have an accountability to a higher being. And y'all, I'm not trying to switch anybody to any religion. I don't care what religion you practice. I don't care what higher being you pray to. I don't care if you pray to your cat booger. I don't care. As long as you hold yourself accountable above your level. Because the best lesson that children learn in life is that they are not the end all be all. That the hierarchy continues to go up. Because that's how you learn to be accountable. Not because your mommy pointed her finger at you, it's because you understand a hierarchy. You understand that there's power above you, and you don't have to give that power to people, but you feel it. And so you hold yourself accountable because you feel accountable to something above you. And that creates, in a human being, it creates a better motivation, a better drive, a more positive drive. And I think that is why, as the world becomes less and less of a spiritual place, that's why we see more and more negativity. is because the accountability stops at the human level and we serve ourselves. We don't have that higher accountability. We don't have a higher expectation. We don't have a higher hope. And boy, when you start talking like that, you start bringing the human condition down to a miserable place, don't you? And then you start seeing people act out on those miserable emotions. And spirituality does not mean that you follow what another man has written, cultivated, and created. It just means that you follow what you feel internally and that pull that you feel in the universe. Because I guarantee you, if you do like me and you read all the different about all the different religions of the world, they all pretty much feel like the same thread being sewn into one big fabric. It's the same book written in 500,000 languages. But you're the relationship with you have with whatever spiritual, acclamation, that's your personal relationship. And as long as you're having a personal relationship with your spirituality, it's not wrong. Gypsy has absolutely feel the light inside. Absolutely. I do a lot of meditation. I do a lot of white light meditation. And I'm not like a ooh witchy woman, like a boho. I'm not. I'm not. I'm a very grounded little redneck girl from Appalachia. But when you sit down and you use your brain, the power center, the battery source for your intelligence, and you use your brain to create an internal room for you to enter and rest, relax, and recoup within. It's a very powerful experience. I think everybody should try to meditate. I think everybody should at least try to do the white light meditation. So I don't know. I see a lot, and when I had that conversation, like I got 2 back-to-back phone calls this evening, which was so unexpected, and they were both blessings. And to have had that last conversation with my friend, whose family they're starting to wake up. They moved here from a big city. They moved to a podunk town. They had growing pains. I immediately reached out. We became fast friends. And now that they're looking at the area with eyesight other than, just from hostility, they're starting to see a lot of truths that were hidden to them when they lived in a very urban area. And they're starting to understand how lives intertwine and people need to hold on to humanity and find those common threads rather than focusing on the differences. They're starting to wake up to that. And she's one of the most fun people to talk to because everything about her life that she's lived is different than mine. And so it's just like a new playground to explore every time we talk. And I'm so thankful for her because I have a lot of friends, parceled out through the world. But to have had this specific person who was entrenched in a certain lifestyle move here and be able to converse with her almost daily and really explore, it's been an eye-opening event for me. And it has been for her as well. But I can only tell you about what I'm feeling. And I feel like I have found a friendship that was one of those that you either find it and you benefit from it, or you don't find it and you have a hole in your heart the rest of your life. That's kind of who she is for me. And so I know what I'm learning from her I was supposed to learn. And I think she feels the same way. And when we sit down and we have these talks and we blend the two worlds that we were forced to grow up in, and I say forced to grow up in because if we hadn't grown up with these preconceived societal notions, we would not feel like we were cast into two separate lots. So as we blend our two worlds, we realize that we were supposed to be together our entire lives, that there should have not been this bifurcation within society between our groups, and that we have so much more to learn about each other than to hate about each other. And why in the world is the biggest teaching tool that the media and people in power use? Why is it hate? Why is it anger? Why is it fear? Why do they go there? They either 100% embrace it or they 100% can't see it. But understand they are 100% in control of it. They just don't have to live amongst it. We do. And so we fully sat down and identified who the puppeteers were, and we talked about these positions of power and this cycle of society and how humanity has not overcome it, and why can't we freaking overcome this? The only reason that humanity has not been able to overcome this has been fear. People have been too fearful to step out of their perceived roles that's been given to them to reach across that line and go, hey, instead of being opponents, let's join forces and be on the same team. Because if we shifted the numbers and shifted the power that quickly in just a couple 3 days, then the people that think they're in power, we would watch them crumble. They would probably try to have some kind of power play. But if we truly reached across the field and said, hey, instead of being opponents, let's be on the same team and let's figure this out. And let's stop this hate train from rolling through humanity. Let's stop this cycle that's been going on since the Romans. You would watch the people that think they're in power run for the hills and crumble. Because every bit of strength that they have is built on the perception of lies. I'm reading the messages and I seen collard, and I immediately tasted collard greens in my mouth. And I just had to sit here and go, I have not had any greens in a while. I need some greens. I'm sorry. That's how my brain works. See, I just chased a squirrel. I don't know, but I just had this really enlightening conversation with her, and it just all kind of clicked, and we figured out the role of victimhood and why our society has changed the meaning of the word so quickly and for what use. And it just all clicked, and we just looked at each other and we were just like, we figured this out. And I was like, I've been thinking this for a while, but I've not like tested my theory. I've been reading about this for years, but I've not like verbally opened my mouth to speak about this, because you don't know how society will take to you talking about ideologies and groups and separate people, and because they want to expect the worst of somebody when you basically identify the groups in society, because there are groups in society. But when you talk about the groups in society, you're a bad person because you see groups in society. We all see the groups in society, and to a certain extent those groups are there as a safe place, as a home base, as a cultural remembrance, and like a home base where you can always go back and remember who you are. There's nothing wrong with finding a comfortable place in society to live and having that place in society kind of lean more toward looking or acting like you. There's nothing wrong with that. That's called comfort base. But we should be able to blend and talk and communicate without breaking down into, battle dome. But people won't allow you to communicate because they're so apprehensive that you're going to say one of these newfangled words with these newfangled meanings, and you're just going to. But the only reason they don't want us to have a dialogue isn't because they're terrified that we're going to create animosity. They're scared that we're going to create friendships and create unions and create a balanced society that demands we stop playing these mind games with each other. Annette says Grandpa warned me about social type handouts. Our families worked. That's what my family grew up working. I was working. I was taking care of broiler house chicken houses that have 21,000 chicks in them each, and I was taking care of 3 to 4 of those before I was out of high school. I was training horses. I was shoeing horses with my dad. My dad was a blacksmith and farrier. Then I went to night classes with my mother and watched my mother get her college degree. So I was very well rounded. I saw hard work, and then I saw my mother trying to climb out of the hard work and get a better leg up on life. And so I learned how to work hard and do nasty work that needed to be done on the farm. But I also understood that college was just 30 minutes down the road, and by golly, if I had the ability to go, I needed to be there. And so I grew up in a very well rounded place in life. And I saw stuff that kids probably shouldn't have seen due to some issues that my family had, but I also gained a lot because I saw especially my mother, I saw my mother try to climb and change her social standing. I saw her want to do better, want to be better, and want to project better. So I learned a lot from my family. Some stuff I had to put in the negative pile, but a lot of stuff I put in the positive pile. And people don't want to work anymore. And I grew up doing hard. That's why I have big shoulders and big. And when I sit on camera, you can tell I packed a lot of muscle in my young years. I pack a lot of fat these days too. But you can tell I've turned some hard work now. When you turn the taters up with a bullhorn plow because the other plows have been loaned out to all you neighbor friends, that's hard work. And not to mention that my standard bred mare that pulled the plow was blind, so a straight line was something that Softy, my horse, bless her heart, could not understand. But she did okay. But I worked and grew up doing hard work. And I remember in the stuff that they tried to implement in the 60s in the deepest of Appalachia, the programs and the changes and the power dynamic changes in the coal and the power world and the welfare state they tried to create, it trickled down, and really around the mid 80s created kind of this freeze to where people were getting out of Appalachia. And then after about 20 years of the implementation of these programs, literally the funds in Appalachia came to a screeching halt to where the money was so tied up. There was so little that could be made freely, and there's so much that was tied up in government programs and sponsored things. And so the money and the jobs that people had been able to find it just came to a screeching halt around 82 to 85. And things got really hard for my family. And thank God my mother got out of college very soon thereafter, because things got super difficult in Appalachia about that time. Because what those government programs did was tie up all the money. The money was always tied up into some program, some benefit program, something. And what it did was take away that free-flowing money to where you could tend somebody's cattle, you could fix somebody's fence, and make some money. Well, now there was a program they could go and get government funds for that. So it like bottlenecked all the free money that could be made in Appalachia. Yeah, it was a war on poverty, is exactly what it was. It made Appalachians where if you want extra money, you have to go ask the government for it, because we've stifled your ability to create these jobs and creatively fill these positions that are necessary. It's all government funded now. And it got very difficult in Appalachia for so long. And I am proud to be from Appalachia because we're a hardy people. Now we've got some spines of steel. We will do what has to be done to put food on the table. But at the same time, I look upon the welfare state that was forced upon us, and I'm so disgusted with the people that just readily stuck their hand out and took everything that was offered, because they were partially at fault for the death of the Hardy family from Appalachia. And that's another reason when I talk to her about this victimhood mentality, I understand it because I've been there. That's how they choked out Appalachia. That's how it was. Either you go to college, try to get a better life, and get trapped in the middle class your whole freaking life, get nickel and dime to death, and actually live poorer than if you were on welfare, because you have to pay. Now you are responsible for anything. There are no government programs in your income bracket. You're screwed. So we could talk about it from two very different vantage points, but they were very similar. Do you know that when there was stuff on the farm that had to be done and you were told to do it, you learned as a child how to do very difficult things. I learned how to hook up a draft mule team, a 4 to 6 horse draft mule team, before I went to kindergarten. And I was taught to do it because I was short enough I didn't have to break my back to do it. So my grandpa taught me how to do it so he could save his back. Now, was it dangerous? Absolutely. Look at all the feet that I was around and all the bodies I was under that could have killed me in an instant. Thank God I grew up and was heavily taught how to deal with livestock. So I speak animal probably more fluently than I speak human. But you were just told to do these things and learn these things. My husband, who has been backwoods logger lumberjack, but like by hand, by axe, splitting wood with a maul, not a hydraulic splitter. He's an old school dude. He come to the farm one day to visit, and I said, first I've got to rehook up the hydraulics on the machinery so that when Dad gets home, he's ready to go off to the back field and work so that he doesn't have to get his hands dirty. And I said, I'm going to do that, and then I'll go wash up and we'll go to dinner. And he said, well, let me do it. And about 10 minutes later, he had not showed back up the back door. I walked out and he goes, I can't figure out where they go. And it was me, a woman, who said, if you wipe the collar of these fittings off, you will see a color that coordinates to the color of the hydraulic hose on the back of the tractor. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I think if this color is over there, it probably goes to that. And he's like, well, obviously you don't use the colors because they were covered up. And I said, no, once you start hooking this up, you understand where they go and you hook it up. I said, but it is color coded for people that, struggle. And he's like, well, I'm sorry. He's like, I didn't think there'd be this many hoses. And I was like, yeah, this is the newfangled technology. It gets kind of tedious. And he just laughed and he was like, never met a woman can do more of the tractor than me. And I was like, it's been a big day for you, I'm sure. But you just grow up knowing how to do these things. And, you grow up knowing what hard work is. You grow up knowing what sacrifice is because you love your bottle calf, but you know he's going to feed you next winter. And it's not because we're mean, vicious people. It's because it's the cycle of life and it's how farm life works. And, but have you ever sat down and looked back and started to put the puzzle together? And then when you start to see your own puzzle start going farther back in history and other societies and go, holy crap, this is a big puzzle, but it repeats itself. So how come we haven't seen this coming? And y'all, I'm at the point where I want to see what's coming next. I don't want to be taken by surprise. So I've really been researching the majority of my life, especially about psychology and how it goes into sociology and anthropology and cultures and the advancements of cultures and status systems and hierarchical systems that people put into place and why. And I really, really have looked at this from so many vantage points in my life. And I want to know how to stop this cycle because it's not benefiting anyone. We've done it now a few times. We've seen a few massive societies fall from it. How about we all come together and we stop this ride? Wouldn't that be nice? The only reason it's not happening is because the puppeteers want to maintain that control. And they're so hard to reach and reason with that we can't even begin to think about talking on their level because they're so far removed from us. on the caste system and mentally and emotionally. They're so far removed. How do we reach those people and say, hey, Bubba, can we stop being enemies for 5 minutes? What are you really scared about? How can we guarantee you that what you're really scared about won't happen so that we can all create a better world? How do we do that? Because really, it's that one group of people that we need to have that talk with. How do we have that talk? Because if we could start having that talk with that one group of people, all the other people in the world will be like, what they said. We're on their team. So how do we stop the next societal fall? Because I don't want anyone to have to start over. I don't want anyone's culture to have to suffer through another round of this stupidity. And believe it or not, if the people that think they have the biggest brains in the world would sit down and shut their mouth for 5 minutes, they would realize that there is no two people in the world that hate each other so much that they wouldn't shut up and stifle their own issues to salvage the other millions of people on the earth from harm. I have faith that no matter how much hate two groups have for each other, if they figured out that they could save millions of people from harm, they would shut up and get over it. If we really talked about it and we were really allowed to have those conversations and we were really able to remind them of the behaviors that they were reenacting and bringing back and who they were acting like and who they were reminding us of and who they were scaring us that they may become. If we could really have those conversations and speak freely as people, we could really start to change things. But our dialogue is controlled, our vocabulary is controlled. The dictionary is being changed daily. My goodness, Dr. Fauci said something on the stand the other day, and before he was back to explain why he'd said it, they had changed the meaning of the word. Did y'all catch that one? When they're stupid enough to be just blatant and do it right in front of your face, mark that one on a calendar. We're getting bold. Yeah, looking inward and upward and healing. Yeah, we've got to start healing. We've got to start getting around like-minded people, pulling people in, finding ways to bond with people as opposed to be different. And we've got to really start thinking and putting our energy on healing and creating unity and seeing people as people instead of opposition. Because I had this conversation with this girl because last night I watched the Tim Pool episode, which is no longer on YouTube, because the white man that Tim Pool had on his, and it was a white man, it was a white rapper. I forget his name because I'd never heard him before. Go look it up if you want to look it up. It's on Rumble. But this white rapper that Tim had on his episode and in the discussion threw so many racial slurs. Like I was educated on racial slurs toward white people last night. Like I hadn't heard half of them. And he thought it was perfectly fine to say these things. And he wanted no one to take away from any person of color's journey in the world. But when Tim, who is like a quarter Korean, whose family was almost imprisoned because it was like a white man that married a Korean woman, which was illegal for years and years and years, and they had to run because they were going to be imprisoned. That rapper looked at Tim and said, I feel nothing for you. You're just trying to take away from a person of color's journey on this earth. No person's journey can take away from another person's journey. They're each journeys of people, individuals. They count just as much as the other. And I sent her a message and I said, watch this before they delete it, because I knew they were going to delete it because of the racial slurs the man used. And she ended up having to finish it on Rumble. That's how quickly it got deleted on YouTube. So if you can, go watch Tim Pool, and it's with R.A. rapper, I don't know. I didn't know the guy. Apparently he had a track on Tony Hawk's Underground. I didn't know that. Anyway, he was the most bigoted, racist person I've ever seen in my entire life. And I say that confidently. And I watched that, and she went and finished it, and we talked, and then we said, make sure that let's try to finish this tomorrow. So she called me back, and I had been so puny all day, I was gonna let it slide until I felt better. But she watched it and was so excited to talk about it that she called me back this evening, and we had the best conversation. And it was all because for that couple hours that Tim Pool had that guest on, you could see the absolute ignorance of this social experiment completely amplified for those 2 hours. Like everything that was wrong and stupid was amplified to such. I mean, it was just like watching a comedy of errors. And then you have to realize that that's actually how most of the people in this world think. And then you go, crap, there's a lot of work that we've got to do. Do you want to know why YouTube took that down? Well, number one, the racial slurs, but number two, because it showed the absolute willful ignorance of the people that have the power, of the people that are swinging society from one pendulum side to the other. Those people that have that power, they have absolute no foundational knowledge of how society works, of what the cultures in society actually want expressed, about the respect they need and the things they're willing to tolerate and how we can all work. They know none of that. They only know how to be angry and abusive and racist. But then they go out there and they say, you better not be angry, abusive, or racist. And they're all three to keep society in line. And it was so amplified last night that it was like watching a comedy. And I found myself chuckling half the time at the stupidity, like the vapid logic that this guy thought he had. It would just, as soon as he would have a thought, you could watch the air bubbles just beep, 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 gone. That's about, it just, he had nothing. There was no substance. But he ruled the room. He knew it all. He knew nothing and couldn't answer any questions and had no background or historical context. But you didn't tell him he was wrong. And I thought, oh my God, this is the society we live in, and this is why we're having these problems. And that is what prompted her to call me back and go, holy crap. She was like, there is no person of color in my little cultural, societal area here that I know that would agree with that man. And I said, thank you, because there is no white person I know in my little neck of the woods that would go, that's a good representation of a white boy. Absolutely not. And we agreed on that. And then we started having this talk, and I told her about what I'd studied, and. But if you've not watched that episode of Temple, please go watch it on Rumble. It's eye-opening, and it's scary, and it's real, and it's why America is falling apart at the seams. It's because idiots like that man have got the seam rippers and are going to work. They're working harder on stupidity than good people are working on logic. We've got to change that. We've got to change that. So, I don't know. I just had a profound discussion this evening, and I wanted to share it. And it turns out that this little cyclical historical event that I have been looking at and thinking, is that really happening? It's really happening, and it's really happening based on these few groups and these few emotions and these few mentalities and these few little cheater ways of how they draw people in and they feel sorry for them and they build them up with emptiness, because if they felt sorry enough for them to help them actually become whole humans, then they would actually be building an enemy that could take them on. But they build them up with emptiness. So it looks like they're doing something good, but then when they become an equal, they can just bash them right back down and start all over again. And as I sat here and had this talk with this person that grew up in a very different world, but we shared our stories, we figured out that we were so much more alike. We were so much more similar than we thought. And we just agreed that we were not going to allow the news media or politicians or people in power to try to tell us why we shouldn't be friends or why we shouldn't be around each other or why our families should not want to spend time together. And we were just absolutely going to just write that off and say, we're going to do whatever we want to do because we now know you're lying. We've identified together you're lying. And we're going to start telling our groups of people, our families, our cultures that you're lying. And we're going to build a beautiful, colorful quilt of people in this area. And it's going to be more beautiful with all the more colors we put in it. It's just going to make it more beautiful. And then we're not going to allow any stupid person with a seam ripper anywhere near our society. But we've got to, it's new thing, but we've got to go back to the old ways. We've got to go back to interactions are between people, not ideologies. And you don't know anyone until you shook that man's hand and spent time with him. And you don't meet a man until you see his heart in action. Those old ways of thinking, to where that person is the content of their character, that person is the actions that they bestow upon this earth, that person is the walk they walk, not just the talk they talk. I want us to go back to where we embrace people, when we stop this ideology tribal thing. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Hey, you know something? If my society is doing well and we're kicking it and we're doing great, and you want to be part of it, that's, come on. There's no rules that says why you can't be in this society as long as you try to show love before hate and be positive before you're negative. Everybody's welcome. And I think if we all started having these conversations, we'd realize that we are already a unified land. We have just allowed little dangerous seeds to be planted to create little hedges to separate us, and those can be rototillered out really quick. See, the former Baptist church is now the gathering place. Why? Why? They still probably do the same thing at the gathering place that they did at the Baptist church, right? So, what benefit was there to changing the name? If they're still practicing a religion, they're still following the same Bible, they're still following the same teachings, but they changed the name. Why? Well, at the Baptist church, you can come and hear the preaching of the King James Version Bible, and you'll hear hymnals from the late 1800s up through the late 1900s, and you'll learn about the Golden Rule and the Ten Commandments and the 12 Disciples. And wait, that's offensive. Okay, we are now the gathering place. What happens in the gathering place? Well, we don't want to talk about it. Just come to the gathering place and try us out, and if we're good fit, stay. Well, no, sir. What happens at the gathering place? Well, if you come to the gathering place, you're going to learn about the teachings of the Bible, the King James Version, and you're going to learn about the Ten Commandments and the 12 Disciples, and you're going to hear hymns from the 1800s to the late 1900s. It's the same crap. We just had to change the name because somebody got butt hurt. It's like the artist formerly known as Prince. Oh, this is this is the gathering place formerly known as the Baptist Church. Why is that disrespectful enough that somebody had to change it? Because when I sit here and I go, I really don't think we should have the phrase minor attracted people, because from a psychological standpoint, it takes away the negative connotation and it makes it seem as though it's a normal function, and it is not. It's very abnormal. There's studies happening on the brain over in like Norway, to where they're looking at the different parts of the brain that light up with this stimuli of people that are attracted to minors. And it's a very abnormal brain pattern. It's a very, very abnormal brain function. There is nothing normal about this, but we're trying to normalize this with words. Why? Because if they control the vocabulary and the dialogue and the meaning of the word, they control the world. You can't debate because they control the language, and so they take away the one thing that you have, which is your ability to debate and to use your education and knowledge against them with words that are agreed upon within humanity. But then they go and change the words, and guess what? You have no foundation for debate, because once they take apart 2 or 3 specific words, they've taken apart your entire argument. Why? Power. They're power hungry. They have to control. It's not about that hurt me in my boo-boo spot. It's that I need power. I need control. Because real people that feel hurt about things will want to have real conversations to really deal with the hurt. But people that just want power will just steamroller it. And all we're seeing is a bunch of steamrollers. But now that Tim Pool episode, perfect example of all of this. Matter of fact, it is what prompted her to call me and finish our conversation. So please go to Rumble and watch that Tim Pool episode with R.A. Rugged Man or something other. I don't know. I mean, even as horrible as he was, I would still try to have a conversation with this man. But I would tell him that if you get up, try to physically advance on me or smack the microphone or any part of my home, conversation's over and you're leaving. Because he was physically aggressive. And he thought it was okay to be physically aggressive to get his point across. And the one thing I will say bad about Tim Pool is he thought it was okay for that man to be physically aggressive. And he thought that he had to deal with the physical aggression, because that's how they communicate, so I'm going to have to deal with it. No, physical aggression is not communication. It is nothing but threats. That is nothing but a physical threat and a dominance display. And that is when they've taken words and vocabulary to where they know these words mean nothing, and they can't even use their own vocabulary because they don't understand it, because they're changing it so often. And then somebody uses old school vocabulary to try to have a talk. It screwed that man's brain up so much that all he could do was stand up and slap the microphone and do a dominance display and like grunt. But what was even more sad was that Tim Pool thought that was okay. He thought that was how he was going to have to communicate with that man, and he's going to have to tolerate the dominance displays because it's part of his vocabulary. No. This is how we've stretched and allowed stupidity to enter. There is no dialogue, conversation, debate where standing up and making your peers feel physically threatened is okay. But in this world, the left has gotten that. That's a tactic they pull, and they're allowed to, and they're allowed to get physically violent, and they're allowed to throw Molotov cocktails, and they're like, but nobody else can do it. But our words hurt them, but they're allowed to do these horribly, physically violent things. The whole episode is like I could teach an entire class at a university over that one Tim Pool episode. Please go watch it. Priscilla, you're absolutely right. The Romans, the Catholic Church, there was such a power struggle between the Vatican, between Rome and the Pope and the Vatican, the functioning Catholic Church, and then all the royals and nobles that followed Catholicism. And that's how Protestantism entered into the world, by the unhappy Catholics and the people that were unhappy seeing the Vatican and the Catholic Church start to sway and become more worldly and go for power before they were going to um, teach the word of God. That's how Protestantism was popped up in Europe and France and really took hold. It popped up and struggled in Europe and France for a while. It popped up in Scotland and Ireland, and then it popped back up in Europe and France, and then it spread like wildfire. Because once all the people across the world realized, I can worship, but I don't have to worship and give the Pope all my money and give, then people started to open their eyes and saying, hey, my relationship with God is my relationship with God, and it's not my relationship with this man that wears a red robe, or the guy above him that won't speak to anybody and acts like a deaf mute, but apparently is the most powerful man in the world, So there was a lot that went on between Spain and France and Europe, Scotland, Ireland, and then in the Americas, and then you get over into the Americas, and then you see you see people like Brigham Young pop up and all these other things pop up. But the real issues in religion that started people creating their own little pockets was when the kings and the nobles and the active Catholics, and then the Pope and the Vatican, they all kind of had this split, much like the little cycle split in the three-way power struggle that I talked about a minute ago. And just so happened that in that one, the Catholic Church lost, and the people that wanted to practice their own religions and the nobles who wanted to allow their people to practice whatever religion they wanted to practice, they won. And so the Vatican and the Pope kind of chilled out. Catholicism stayed in a pretty big place of power, but they conceded that people could also practice their other religions. And so that's when Protestantism became a heavy participant in the religious world. And it was right around when Mary Tudor was on the throne in England. It was right around that time. Jenny, sweetie, I mean, you've got a lot of buried rage, but if you deal with that rage, you've got a lot of power to help a lot of people. After you help yourself, of course, but then you've got a lot of power there too. So, which one do you want to have? You got a fork in the road, and if you're here, I think I know which one you're going to pick, because just because you've had a lot of bad things happen to you, it doesn't mean that it's always going to be that bad stuff is always going to stay a black spot. You can transition bad things into little seeds of power. Then you can say, hey, this happened to me, but guess what? I learned. And I'm going to teach it to you so you don't spend a decade or two stuck here. And that little seed of power can spread and help hundreds of thousands of people. Oh, you were kidding about the rage? Well, it was a good example, so thank you for making my brain go there. But like, if you do have those histories that are kind of pitted with really negative things, don't always think it has to stay in negative. Because if you handle it and you process it and you learn how to help other people process it, that's like the ripple effect that never stops. And it's just, you help everybody you come in contact with. People go to therapy and they think that they're showing a weakness by going to therapy and counseling. No, you're showing that you're smart enough to go and say, excuse me, I need help. I need help because I want to help myself. And then you're telling me that you're strong enough to talk to other people. So after you come in here and you get the help you need, you're going to then go out and help who knows how many other people. That's a strong person. Jenny, starting to pick up on your sarcasm, and I really like it. I like wit and sarcasm. But there's something buried there. There's something buried there, and I feel it. I feel it in your words. But if you ever want to talk about it, you can email me. And it may completely be not anything that I'm thinking, that I may be completely off in left field. But I don't know. I just feel like there's something that you really do want to share. Good, you dealt with it decades ago, so you just easily talk about it then, and just kind of throw it around. And you're kind of that person that can diffuse the conversation by saying, "Hey, I've lived here, I've done this, and I have a little bit of power over it, so I can kind of play with the emotions that I throw at it." Um, you need to actually like put yourself in a place where you can like go to like a meeting or a group and talk to people, because they don't feel very powerful themselves. So if they can see somebody that's lived through it and come out the other side, it's very helpful. So if you have that ability, find a way to share it with other people, because not many other people have that ability. And people like you, people that can talk about it and go through different emotions and use their own struggles as kind of like, you can bend it in any way that needs to go to reach whatever audience. That's We don't have a lot of speakers that are capable of doing that. So if you're capable of doing that, please use that power and put yourself in a position to address groups and people that struggle. I mean, it's really difficult to find people that can communicate and and have that, self-deprecating, funny, ha-ha sense of humor and sarcasm and wit, because that will reach. I know people think that that's horrible, but it reaches a lot of people. If humor and that little sarcastic jab reaches a lot of people that otherwise cannot be reached. And there's normally 3 or 4 in every group that are just waiting for somebody to show up with that similar sense of humor to show them that, hey, you can overcome this, and you can use that rather rough sense of humor to do so. Well, the more you share, the more you help. So I would continue to just let it flow. I mean, because it's really helpful. It takes people like in text and comment in written form. It's harder to put together, but when you're together talking to somebody, it's easily picked up on immediately. And so if you could get in a group where you're conversing with people, it would be very valuable for a lot of people to be able to see you do this, to see you handle it, and to see you go through your emotions and manipulate through all of that. Yep, Million Mile is going to Triple T. I may pop in later. Y'all have a good stream. If you haven't ever watched a Triple T stream, go watch him. He's a he's kind of like everybody's old military bud, that speaks a lot of common sense. I don't always like agree on everything, but I listen to the man because I respect the man, because he's seen so much more than I've seen on this globe. And so I listen to him. And sometimes he has very serious streams. Sometimes he's talking about music and he's laughing, but he's always has a good show. So tell Triple T I said have a great show. And if y'all want to go watch Triple T, you're more than welcome to. And I'm probably going to shut up here in a second anyway, so I can go watch him and rest. But when you have these great conversations and these great like epiphany moments with people, you just want to jump on and share. And that is what we talked about. That is the cycle of society and how it's still going on today, and how victimhood mentality is changing, and why it's being changed and manipulated, and why it's not good for victim to equal celebrity status. Annette, I tell everybody that their opinion of me has nothing to do with me. That's their opinion that they formed in their brain from the stuff that they accepted from, an encounter with me. I don't get to open up their brain and fiddle around and manipulate how they feel about me or what they think about me. So I'm with you. Their opinion of me has nothing to do with me, and I just have to let them have it and go on. And I don't spend a lot of time if somebody has a negative opinion about me. I go on, and I just keep doing what I'm doing, and either hopefully it will self-correct or they will come to me and figure out why they have got such a negative view of me. But I know not to waste my energy there, just to keep going and keep having contact with as many people as possible and try to make it as positive as possible and keep trying to build the positive and not get focused on the negative. So this has been a really good chat. I just wanted to share because this woman, I value her information, and I value her input, and I value her cultural information that was relevant to help me and her have this conversation. She is from like the Caribbean, and she got the most beautiful accent. And so to have me and her talking, and if you were to hear me and her talking together with our two very separate accents, you would think that is not a conversation you would ever witness in your life, because I'm just twanging it up and she sounds very refined. But we have such great conversations, and we had such a great conversation tonight, and it was eye-opening for both of us. And we feel even more bonded now. We feel even more that we're on the same team, that we're going through the same struggle, and it was great to know that the people that are, that the puppeteers would say, the people in her culture, they really do understand that it's not their culture against my culture. It's just a bunch of people that haven't all figured out we're on the same team, really. We're just so focused on stupid little wedges that keep us separated. But once we throw those little wedges away, we would all rather quickly realize we're on the same team. And I think we're getting close. I think we're getting closer. I think we're building up the appropriate conversations and the appropriate interactions with people to start showing that we're all having the same fight here. We're all struggling with the same thing. And we need to stop trying to make our fight appear more horrible or more of a struggle. We just need to all band together and all work together and try to get everybody to realize, hey, let's stop trying to struggle. Let's just band together and try to stop the struggle completely. Oh, that's a great song by Billy Ocean. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. Oh, Lord, Jenny, you're cracking me up. But I just wanted to share it. I think there's so much more power in our society, right on the cusp, and it's got to be opened with a key of love and a key of understanding. And I think we're all understanding that because we're seeing such divisiveness, and we're understanding it's being filled with hate and the desire for power and the desire to control other people and to impede other people from fulfilling what they can do in this world. But they want to stop people from fulfilling what they can do because they don't want other people to feel power, to feel complete. And I think we're starting to see that. I think we're starting to talk about it more. It's definitely the temple episode was a huge eye opener as to why we're all so blindly separated and cast against each other, and how easy it is to manipulate people that want to be manipulated and want to grab onto those terminologies, those words, those hip cultural words that are being formed to make people feel special these days. And please, if you do nothing else, go to Rumble and watch that Temple episode with R.A. Rugged Man or whatever his name was. Please go watch that. Please tell me how many times your jaw hit the floor when you watched it, because mine basically stayed on the floor. And go and please watch that, and then watch Society, and tell me that it's not just It's not just it's not just society mimicking people in positions of power. They're just all they have no context, they have no background, they can't tell you why they form these opinions. They are just repeating phrases that are embedded into their brain and screamed at them, and like flashpoint cue cards. They have no depth, they just know a few lines, and then they go to physical threats and displays of dominance. And then, and if you start to identify that, oh my gosh, that those people have no depth, if we can just get past this little problem with them, then they would dissipate because they have no foundation to stand on. And if you watch that temple episode and then you go out and you start to watch society and you start to realize that it is a show, it is a facade, it is a marionette show of people being manipulated and pulled, and it's on repeat. It's a um, very shallow argument that they have. It's just the volume's on high and it's on repeat. And if we just start to realize that if we keep talking and we keep showing love and we keep banding together, eventually the hate will have nowhere to land, and these people will have no one to follow them, and the world will be a much better place. So please go to Rumble and watch that temple episode that happened last night with that rugged man guy. Please. And then watch the news and watch society, and you will put the puzzle together. I'm so glad that she finished it and she did call me, because I was going to completely just let it go tonight and sleep and rest. I'm so glad she called me, because I think the awakening that she had from watching this, I think it's going to be had all over the world when people watch this. Please go watch it. Denise and Gypsy, that's right. I say that color doesn't count. Gems are gems, no matter what color they are. And when you're talking about the hearts and souls of people, that has nothing to do with their skin. It has nothing to do with their color, nothing to do with melanin, nothing to do with pigmentation, nothing. That heart and that soul, that's a gemstone, and that gemstone is going to shine. It's going to be beautiful no matter what color it is. Denise, touche, you got me. Sometimes intelligence cannot be fixed. Sometimes you just hit a barrier. Oh goodness. But I'm gonna keep trying. I'm gonna keep trying to make sure I'm gonna, I'd rather bounce off a barrier and know I tried than never try. Goodness. Okay, well it is 9:36, 9:35. I'm gonna shut up now so that y'all can go venture through the rest of YouTube. I just had to share when something amps me up and opens my heart as much. I just wanted to share it with you all. Please go watch this temple episode. Please go talk to people. Please share it. Please start talking about the behavior you see. Please start addressing the negativity, the fear mongering that is happening all across the world. Please start trying to generate more positivity. Let's take our world back through love and positivity and hope. And let's not let these little ideological warfares between 3 and 4 created sects of people, you know, take down our nation, our people, our society. Let's look back and say, hey, this happened before. Look at this. Even in the Romans, even with the Ukraine, and the kulaks, this has happened before, and it will happen again. How about we go? Wait, we don't want it to happen again. Let's stop it now. Let's pay attention. Let's realize that from day one, man has tried to use differences to create a power scheme. How about we take that away? How about we say differences don't matter? We're stuck on our similarities, and by golly, we've got a whole lot more of those. And we take that power back and we say, no, it's going to be a good world. It's going to be a positive world. We're going to focus on the positive. We're never going to obliterate negative. It's always going to be there in some capacity. but we can certainly say it's not in control. It's not got the seat of power. And the only way to do that is to educate, look for the context, look for the historical context, build up your argument, flesh it out, make sure that you have the answers to the questions people are going to ask you. Make sure you understand why you believe what you believe, and that you know the background, and that you have a valid argument, and it's not just built on hate and flash words and culture, hype culture. Make sure that it's founded in intelligent study of historical data. We can change this world. We can change this world. If I can sit in Appalachia and have a conversation with somebody from the Caribbean, and I can reach a family that is here and strewn through the Caribbean and Barbados and everywhere, if a little redneck girl can have these conversations, this starts a ripple effect. Imagine what you people in urban areas can start. Do it. Go start these conversations. Make sure you tell them immediately it's out of love. It's out of find similar components so that you can build a friendship, that you can build a respectful working relationship with this person, because you want to live in a society where you respect people first. You will not believe how thirsty people are for respect and friendship. They want it so bad. So start having these conversations and creating these little ripples and affecting the world. Even if my small group only reaches 50 to 100 people, then when your small group goes and reaches more people, it can go into the thousands quickly. So go and do this. Go and be positive. I mean, how many people are you going to meet that's going to say, go out and show love? Point out your differences only to annihilate them with similarities. Walk away having built a friendship, a bond. Because tonight, that friendship has absolutely given me such, I don't know, I'm kind of floating on, I'm just kind of floating on the emotion, the love, the friendship, the feeling that somebody got me, that they overlooked differences and they cared enough to take that leap of faith and listen to me, and they got me and they reciprocated, and we know that we absolutely solidified our friendship for life, and that we both have similar goals, and we're ready to work with those goals and spread love and positivity and start asking hard questions to a society that runs away from hard questions. We've got to, our society is soft. We've got, and there's nothing wrong with being a strong society, with having a backbone. Compassion is only available where strength is shown. Without strength, what good is compassion? Ask yourself that. So I just had such a great conversation. And Country Christian, I talked to her first, and then immediately as soon as I hung up the phone with her, I got another phone call. And I'm telling you, those two phone calls made my evening tonight, because I had not felt good. I had a bad day. The weather's been horrible. My RSD has been amped up. And these two phone calls changed my whole evening. And the last one probably changed my entire life. That's it. Do no harm but take no crap. It's being strong, having strength, having poise, and having boundaries. It's not a bad thing. It's how you execute those boundaries and that strength is how you're, that's what creates the issue. But without strength and boundaries, compassion would be meaningless, because compassion is only shown to those who do not have the strength and are not in control of the boundaries. And when you have a society that loses compassion, that loses the ability to have empathy and sympathy, that is completely self-serving, that is stuck on the hierarchy of man and has no accountability above, we've got some problems, people. We've got some big problems. But my conversation, my friendship that I've built with this woman and her family is proof that our nation is so thirsty for positive friendships, educational friendships, and to change the conversation that's going on, the narrative that's going on in our nation. We want our positive American family loving melting pot back. Because that's what America is, where everybody belongs. No matter what, everybody belongs. But you can only belong and you can only join a nation. It's the same thing, strength. You need strength to have compassion, and you've got to have boundaries to show that you have compassion. Well, they need to respect boundaries and respect our strength. Come in legally to this nation, and anybody that wants to come here and live here, please come here legally, live here, be an American. We will take you. But please follow the rules. If you want to be part of America because of its strength, then respect its boundaries so that we can show you that compassion and we can welcome your nation legally, and we can be that melting pot that America is supposed to be. Legally, that's it. Legally, everything that anybody does in this world, I want them to do it legally. I want you to follow the rules, because without rules, without structure, society falls apart. But I want the melting pot that I grew up, America, the melting pot, to where all different types of people were represented in all different communities, and that we were all still working toward this idea of the American dream and the pursuit of happiness. And we didn't begrudge anyone that dream or that pursuit. I want that back. And I think so many people are thirsty to have that back. And you can, people in other countries talk about that they want America to be America again, people. And it all starts with words, conversations, dialogue, and stating that we don't know. You don't get to change our vocabulary. You don't get to change the denotation of words, the connotation of words. You don't get to have that control. You don't get to play our emotions. You don't get to play psyops and control us by fear. And if the people that are being wedged apart by stupid little issues would realize that we're living the same life, they just make us think it's a separate issue. It's not. If we would just come together, want to take power and love and positivity and blessings would just rain down upon our nation again. So that's what I don't want anybody to ever discredit any human being. As long as you wake up breathing, you can wake up and become a better human. You can wake up and become the better person, the best you can be. No one is ever out of the game to improve themselves and become a better person. But I want people to start having positive conversations, but also having those hard conversations, and to have those boundaries, and to say that this negativity, this fear mongering, and this hate. I mean, it's like hate birthing. They literally create cultures to just talk about how they can hate more people in more ways. They literally can create subsections of cultures so that they can create other new ways to hate other people. Gypsy girl, I needed that laugh. I so needed that laugh. You know, if people can sit here and envision that they are anything, if they can be anything they want to be, my biggest question is why would you not first wish to be a good person and happy? And so for the people that if it takes somebody 67 seconds to introduce themselves to you, it's because they don't know who they are. Just walk away and introduce yourself to somebody else. If it takes 67 seconds and it takes words that you have no idea were created, Just walk away because that person does not know who they are. They'll grow up in a little while and they'll figure it out. And then maybe they'll cross paths with you again and you'll have a positive experience. There's nothing wrong with understanding that that's a battle you don't want to pick. It's okay. But people need to understand. Looks like I went on the rant the other night. In the last 2 decades, where people have tried to redefine what it is to be a sexual predator, redefine what it is to have gender issues, fluid gender, binary, non binary, trans, and all these other things. We have had our heads in our britches staring at our own itty bitty bits for so long. We've been so focused on something so minuscule, really, in the scheme of life. I mean, it really is minuscule. Because the things that you accomplish in life are not because of your naughty bits. They're not. Unless you're like somebody in the adult film world that's made billions of dollars and have turned that money into orphanages and everything. It just, it has to be way out there. Let's just say that. I try to be comical sometimes when I'm talking about weird things, but I'm just, it has to be way out there. But we have been so consumed with something that nobody else really ever sees, that doesn't affect anybody else's life, that doesn't affect with normally what we set out to do or accomplish in our life. It's like, oh, you became president of a South African nation and saved the Aboriginal people from a genetic disease that they did not know was in their genes, and therefore this nation of people will live on indefinitely thanks to your great educational prowess. How did you come to this delineation? Well, I was non-binary, and I was standing there staring down my britches one day, and I thought, how can I help somebody? No, it doesn't happen like that. But we have allowed these strange subsects of society to say it's more important to be in tune with your naughty bits than to be in tune with the society you live within. And let me tell you something. The society you live within will affect you way more in life than your naughty bits. It's just, I just can't stress that enough. But it was simply what it was a distraction. It was a distraction to get people on this big scheme of self-empowerment and self-awareness. And I'm sorry, I'm very self-aware about my own body. You don't need to tell me to be. And if you need to tell me to be, I think we need to have a boundary conversation. And my government certainly doesn't need to tell me how aware I need to be about my body. So back off. But it was just a distraction. And a lot of people fell for it. And it was a distraction to emotionally appeal and then to emotionally manipulate a lot of people into giving up their power. And literally, it probably took 37 to 50% of the people that would otherwise do a positive thing in their life. Well, they've been over here whining because nobody cares about all the information they have acquired about their naughty bits. And those people could have done something really powerful with their life. Now, I've dealt with people that have gender dysphoria, and there are valid claims in all of this. But when you look at the majority of what is going on there, it is a ploy to steal time and focus and put it on something that has no power while they do the bait and switch with our nation. Like, I sit here every night and I think, have I ever met anyone in my life that had they immediately told me that they were of a different orientation that I would have walked away from? No. Because I don't bond with people like that. I bond with people on character, actions, behavior. If you're a good person, if you follow through with what you say you're going to follow through. I don't think about what you do behind closed doors because it's none of my business. Therefore, it doesn't factor into who I think you are as a human being. And to be quite honest, it's not a topic I want to talk with you about because I think it's a private part in life that I don't need to talk to you about. I don't want. The only person that needs to worry about what I do behind my closed doors is the person that's behind my closed doors with me. And as long as that person or those people are in agreement, then what's the problem? So I've never met anyone that has been a factor in how I've treated them or if I've created a friendship with them. So for all these people running around saying that they are disenfranchised because of what's in their britches, how long and how long do you spend with your head down your britches, and how many people goes in there with you? Because that therein may lie. That's the problem. The emphasis is on the wrong thing. What, you hear that? The emphasis is on the wrong syllable. Your life, the emphasis is on the wrong syllable. But it's been a great distraction ploy. And while I know there are people that do have gender dysphoria issues, because I've dealt with them, and it's a very horrible, crippling issue when it is a valid issue. But for the most part, what's going on in our society is the masquerading of people that want to have these issues for attention purposes, so that they can act out something that they really need to deal with in a healthier way. Because I'm here to tell you, sexuality is a great and powerful thing, but you know, it's kind of like a battery. The more you use it, the quicker it wears out. And it's one of those things that you need to make sure that you're not overusing. And a lot of people think it's like the only thing in life that gives life meaning, and I'm like, how depleted your life must be to not have people that fulfill you in other ways. Because I guarantee you, if you are a true adult, a true person that has a true functioning brain, you will realize that probably the most important relationships you will have in your life will be those that are built upon intelligence and communication and sharing of thoughts. That information swap, to where you trust someone to have those deep, dark conversations about beliefs. It's not something. It's not a momentary physical event. That's not the power of life. The power of life is realizing the intelligence within all man and preserving that intelligence. And yeah, we have to procreate and keep man going, but we keep man going to do these great intellectual feats, and not to stare down their britches and create pronouns that don't exist, and then to kidnap and hold hostage nations because they want to have a parade with inappropriate costumes. That's my rant for the night. That is my rant for the night. And this comes from a fat woman in Appalachia with Freddie Mercury tattooed on her arm. I respect your decision to make your personal, you make your personal decisions for yourself. But I don't need you to broadcast them to me. I'm okay. And I think if we were to take a vote in America, most people would be like, chill, we don't care anymore. But if people that really need that much validation is because something else is going on. 9 times out of 10 is because something else is going on. But they've made this cry for help the easiest and the most accessible, and therefore we're stuck listening to it. So just get used to it, people. It's not going anywhere. Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Go watch Temple. Tell me what you got from it. Tell me what you feel from it. And then let's keep having these conversations. Today started as a crappy day, ended as a great day. And I hope that I keep this excitement, that we have this ability to understand each other. I hope I keep this level of excitement way through the new year, because it's what we as a nation need. We need this level of excitement about people, about good people, about meeting good people, about making friendships, and about understanding each other again. And I want that to spread like wildfire. Because we have a nation hanging in the balance. I want my nation back. Annette, Amen. And on the pamphlet, it would say family friendly function. Not. Lord have mercy. All right, I'm going to shut up now. I'm going to go and try to nibble on something and then head to bed. But I'm telling you, people, I haven't felt this positive in months. I wanted to reach out and zap all of you with this positivity and keep it going. We can change the world, and yeah, we have to acknowledge stupidity and identify it and say, look at that, and tell people that's not working for us, and we have to address things that we wouldn't want to address. But when we get these great examples, like this temple episode where everything that's not working shows up so clearly in an hour and a half, like it's under a microscope, use that to show people why communication is not going to happen with these people, these newfangled terms and newfangled definitions, and manipulating our communication and our ability to debate. Go watch this episode, and I promise I'll shut up this weekend, and we'll be back with a Trey video beginning of the week. Well, I've had a day. I'm going to bed. I love you all. MommaLiz out.